If Manchester United end up with Ederson, Matheus Fernandes and Hayden Hackney, but miss out on an elite midfielder like Sandro Tonali, Elliot Anderson or Aurelien Tchouameni, you already know what the reaction will be. Same old United, quantity over quality, lower wages instead of best in class. And I get why some fans will say that, but what if that whole narrative is wrong? The more you analyze what Manchester United are actually doing, the more you realize this is not random at all. What if Michael Carrick is trying the same strategy Sir Alex used back in 2008 to construct one of the best midfield depth in United's modern history? And there are 7 parts to this rebuild that make it way more interesting, and honestly, way scarier than people think. The elite midfielder trap, why the cheaper signings actually matter, why Kobbie Mainoo is the centerpiece, the 2008 blueprint, the new midfield profiles, the combinations Michael Carrick could build, and the one risk that could still ruin all of it. So the real question is not just, did United sign the biggest name? The deeper question is, are they finally building a midfield that actually fits together? Before we go deeper, hit the like button if you enjoy these United breakdowns, and drop your take in the comments below. Is this smart squad building, or are United just playing a numbers game? Part 1. The elite midfielder trap. This club should be in the conversation for elite midfielders like Sandro Tonali, Aurelien Tchouameni, or Elliot Anderson. But here is the trap. One elite midfielder does not fix a broken midfield on his own. United have tried the headline signing before, win the transfer window, win the breaking the social media contest. Then 6 months later, the same problems are still there. No balance, no legs, no control, no protection, no proper rotation. So this rebuild cannot just be judged by the biggest name United sign. It has to be judged by whether all the pieces actually fit, because a superstar can raise the ceiling. But if the floor is still weak, the team still collapses when the game gets ugly. Part 2. Why the cheaper signings matter. And this is where people are getting it wrong. Because when fans hear names like Ederson, Matheus Fernandes, or Hayden Hackney, the reaction is predictable. Is that really enough? Where is the superstar? Are United just buying squad players? And I get it. None of those names hit like Aurelien Tchouameni. None of them feel like the signing that makes rivals panic on announcement day. But that is not the point. The point is what they do. Ederson is not coming in to be the face of the rebuild. He is coming in to give United legs, duels, recoveries, and dirty work. The stuff that does not always make the edit, but stops your midfield getting walked through. Matheus Fernandes would give United something different, carrying, pressure resistance, Premier League experience. A midfielder who can take the ball under pressure and actually move the team up the pitch, not just pass it sideways and hope somebody else solves the problem. And Hayden Hackney, if United move for him, gives them rhythm. Someone who can receive, recycle, control the tempo, and stop every possession turning into a rush. That is why these signings matter, because they are not all trying to be the same player. One gives you energy, one gives you carry, one gives you control, and suddenly the midfield starts to look less like a group of random names and more like a group of profiles. That is what good squad building looks like. Not every signing has to be the superstar. Sometimes the smartest signing is the one that lets the superstar work. Because if United do land the elite name, that player still needs structure around him. He still needs runners. He still needs protection. He still needs someone to move the ball into him. He still needs a midfield around him that does not collapse the moment the game gets physical. That is why the cheaper signings might be more important than people think. They are not there to replace ambition. They are there to support it. And if Carrick gets the mix right, this is not United choosing quantity over quality. It is United finally buying midfielders with actual jobs. Part 3. Kobbie is the centerpiece. And this is where the rebuild starts to make real sense. It is not even just about signing 3 midfielders. The real question is what United are building around Kobbie Mainoo. Because under Amorim, it looked like Kobbie had been pushed to the side. The player United fans thought was supposed to be the future suddenly looked like he was fighting for trust. Then Michael Carrick came in, and everything changed. Kobbie became undroppable, not because he was perfect every week, but because Carrick clearly saw something that had to be protected. Composure, press resistance, decision-making. A midfielder who does not panic when the game gets tight. That is rare. But here is the problem. If you build around Kobbie badly, you drown him. You cannot ask him to be the controller, the ball winner, the carrier, the firefighter, and the future all at once. That is how you waste a special player. So when United start looking at different midfield profiles, it begins to make sense. Ederson can take away some of the dirty work. Matheus Fernandes could add another ball carrier. so Kobbie is not the only player expected to escape pressure. And if one elite midfielder arrives as well, suddenly Kobbie is not carrying the rebuild. He is growing inside it. That is the difference. The old United would throw a talented player into chaos and hope his talent solved everything. This version looks like it is trying to build the right conditions around him. That is why Kobbie matters so much in this story. He is not just another midfielder in the squad. He is the one Carrick seems to trust most. Part 4. The 2008 blueprint. And this is why the 2008 comparison matters. Not because this new United midfield is anywhere near that level yet. It is not, let's be honest. Michael Carrick, Paul Scholes, Owen Hargreaves, Darren Fletcher, Anderson, Three Lungs Park, Ryan Giggs. That was a ridiculous midfield group. But the lesson is not the names. The lesson is the structure. Sir Alex did not build that midfield around one player doing everything. He built it around different profiles for different games. Carrick gave United calm. Scholes gave them rhythm. Hargreaves gave them bite. Fletcher gave them discipline. Anderson gave them power and carrying. Park gave them legs, pressing, and tactical sacrifice. Nobody looked at that group and said, who is the one midfielder who fixes everything? That was not the point. The point was options. If United needed control, they had control. If they needed legs, they had legs. If they needed someone to press, they had that. If they needed someone to sit, screen, and keep the ball moving, they had that too. That is what made the 2008 midfield so dangerous. It was not just talented, it was adaptable. Different games needed different solutions, and Sir Alex had the pieces to change the midfield without destroying the team. And that is the part I think Carrick understands better than most, because he was in that midfield. He lived inside that structure. He knows that a serious team cannot depend on one perfect midfield combination every single week. Part 5. The combination game. And this is where the rebuild gets interesting, because the scary part is not one perfect midfield. It is having more than one midfield that actually works. That is what United have not had for years. Too often, one player gets injured, one player loses form, one player needs rest, and suddenly the whole system changes. The midfield stops functioning. Bruno drops too deep, Kobbie has to do too much, the defense gets exposed, and the manager is left trying to patch holes instead of changing games. That is why combinations matter. Because if United get this right, Carrick does not have to pick the same midfield every week and hope it survives. He can choose the right midfield for the right match. If United need energy and duels, Ederson gives them that. If they need carrying and pressure resistance, Matheus Fernandes gives them that. If they land the elite name, that player gives them the level raiser. And Kobbie can fit into different versions without having to carry the whole thing alone. That is the point. Against a low block, maybe you need more control. Against a physical team, maybe you need more legs. Away in Europe, maybe you need more steel. That is what serious squads have. Not just good players, good combinations. And that is why the who starts debate can miss the bigger picture. The question is not just, what is United's best midfield three? The question is, how many different midfields can Carrick build without the level falling apart? Because if the answer is finally more than one, that changes everything. Part 6. What this does for Bruno. Because this rebuild is not just about Kobbie Mainoo, it is also about Bruno Fernandes. For years, United have relied on Bruno to do everything, and somehow still be the player expected to win the match. That is not sustainable. Because Bruno is at his best when he is closer to the danger, closer to the moment where one touch can kill a team. But too often, United have dragged him away from that. The midfield gets pressed, the ball stops moving, nobody carries it through, nobody controls the tempo, nobody gives the centre-backs a clean option. So Bruno drops deeper and deeper just to rescue the build-up. And when he does that, United lose him, where he is most dangerous. That is why this rebuild matters. And suddenly, Bruno does not have to keep playing firefighter. He can play higher. He can receive between the lines. He can create where it actually hurts teams. That is the point. This is not just about buying midfield depth. It is about putting United's best players back in their best zones. Because if Bruno spends less time fixing the midfield and more time attacking the box, United immediately become more dangerous. Part 7. The risk. But there is one risk in all of this, and it is not that United are buying cheaper midfielders. That is not the real danger. The real danger is buying midfielders who do not fit together. You end up with players stepping into the same spaces, players doing half jobs, players who look good individually, but make no sense as a unit. So this rebuild only works if every signing has a purpose. And if United sign the marquee midfielder, that player cannot just be the name that wins the window. He has to be the level raiser. That is the key. Because buying 3 or 4 midfielders does not automatically fix anything. The profiles have to connect, the roles have to make sense, and the manager has to know which combination fits which game. That is why this rebuild is exciting, but also dangerous. If United get the mix wrong, people will look back and say they bought numbers instead of quality. But if Michael Carrick gets it right, then suddenly the whole argument changes, and United finally get a midfield that can survive more than one type of game. That is when this stops looking like a transfer window and starts looking like a plan. Because the scary part is not that United might sign a lot of midfielders. The scary part is that for once, they might actually sign the right ones.